Hello everybody, this is Barbie. I'm back today to do a quick little demo on a rose. So let's get busy and see what we can get done here. Okay, this is what I ended up doing with my little rose. I cut it out and pasted it on a little index card and made a journal card out of it. And then on the back, this is what I did. Used some of my Tim Holtz stamps on it here and here. That's the field note stamps. Really love those. A little Tracy Fox label here, and just some collaging. And there's my little watercolor. Let me make sure I'm in frame. There's my little watercolor, last little watercolor die that I used to cut out from my watercolor backgrounds. So there you go. Okay, we're going to see what we can come up with here. Now in watercolor, there is a time period that you have to wait for it to dry. So I'm not exactly sure. I might set it aside and do something else. Maybe do a watercolor background or something while it's kind of drying. So we'll just see how this goes. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, number one, is I'm going to get the paper wet. Now when you're putting down the water, you just lay it down real softly where the brush bristles, I can't talk, is just gliding over the top of the paper, like so. And you don't scrub it, because it'll raise the fiber of the paper. And this is just a cotton cold pressed rag watercolor paper, but any watercolor paper will work. I prefer the cold press over the hot press just because I like the texture of it, but that's personal preference. Okay, so let's set that aside for the moment. These are the colors I'm going to use today. These are Holbein watercolor pigment, and the first one I'm going to use is Opera Rose. You can use it in the pads, or you know, like the little pads you can buy. It doesn't matter. This is just what I had available for right now. This is Rose Madder, and I'm going to use that for the dark area of the rose. So the base is going to be the pink, and the dark area is going to be Rose Madder. And then I just put this out. This is Areolin, which is a yellow. I'm going to just put that out on my palette. I can't think what to say on my palette. Because I might do some edge work around it just to show you how that works. And then I put out some cobalt blue. Now if you mix yellow and blue, you're going to get green, so you don't need green. And also you can use yellow for an accent, like a lot of roses have yellow in it for accents. Okay, let's see if the shine is off of this. I think we can go ahead and use it. Okay, let's see what we got here. I'm going to start out with a little bit of the Rose Madder. Okay, all we want to do is add a little bit of color. I'm going to put a little bit more of the Rose Madder in. Now, I mean, Opera Rose, I don't know what I was saying. One thing you do need to understand is when you paint your color on, if you think it's a perfect color, add more color to it, because it's going to dry like at least 2 or 3 shades lighter. So that's kind of the rule of thumb. Now the only thing I'm thinking about is I want to get somewhat of a spiral effect, because roses are sort of in a spiral. They grow in sort of a spiral effect. Now in the beginning you may get something that looks like a flower somewhat, but it doesn't really look like a rose, and that's okay. That's something you're just going to have to practice on, but it'll give you a starting point. Okay, so as we start here, I'm going to leave a lot of the white area because it's hard to bring the white back in. So it's best to not try to paint like all over. Just leave some of the white in there. You can always come back and tint it. So it's better to have a little bit more white than not. The next color I'm going to use is Rose Madder. And Rose Madder is a really pretty kind of a browny red color. And it makes a really good darker color for this. Now, most rose centers are darker. And so I'm not going to draw a line. I'm just going to do a little swipe here and there to kind of get the feel of the rose, like so. You see, it's just some swipes, and a lot of the petals will, like this petal here might come this way, where this petal here might come inside. You see the idea? And at some point, as you move away from the center, you start making a line and then pushing your brush down. So if I make a line, kind of push my brush down, it gives a little bit of a shape to the petal, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm by no means an expert in painting these roses, but I had a request to, since I had put a picture up that something I had painted, I had a request to show it again since I lost my video that I did first off. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to add a little bit of the Opera Rose to that color just to give some variation. So I'm thinking now of how my petals might intertwine. And so like right here, might come this way. And as you move out, it gets less defined, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I like to try to kind of keep it somewhat geometric. Not too many like swirlies, but more of a geometric thought, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now this one right here would probably lay down like so. And then as I move over here, I might want to swipe it up like that. And this looks like it may need to, the other part of the petal may tuck that away. And then this part of the petal may come this way. And then what I kind of do is I get towards the back side, I kind of want it to like go away. In other words, be fuzzy, not distinct. So probably what I would do there is to take it and roll it, and then I would take some water and wipe off my brush and kind of fade it away. I got a lot of paint in my brush, like so. And if I got a little bit too much, which I did, I would take a paper towel and just take it and kind of roll it and daub it. And that kind of gets rid of some of that. And here, with just a little bit of paint on there, I'm going to start moving away from the center, which is going to be the darkest. Making just some little swipes. Okay. Now, as you can see, this is sort of, what would I say? You can see as it dries how it's getting lighter and lighter. So as it dries, I would probably come back in and just put a little dab here and there just to test it and see how the paint is reacting. If it's spreading out too much, which it still is, I would probably wait and let it dry a little bit more. So probably what I'll do now, just for time's sake, I need to get rid of some of that distinct lines there. personally, I prefer to let it dry naturally because it allows the paint and the water in the paint and the fiber in the paper to really work together and make a really pretty design, blend. But since we're doing a video, we just can't sit here and watch paint dry, you know what I mean? So I think I'll get my blow dryer, my heat gun, and see if I can speed this up a bit. So if you don't want to hear the blow dryer blowing, then just mute it at this point. Just mute it at this point, and it won't take long to get this somewhat dry. Okay, I'll be back in just a bit. That didn't take too long. Okay, now I think at this point I will probably switch brushes from this really large brush here. Although it makes a nice point, it's still, I like to switch over to a different brush. I don't think that one's. I'm going to try this one. It may be too small. Sometimes it's better to stay a little bit in the larger area. You don't get quite so picky. All right, I'm mixing a little bit of the yellow up because I want to see some yellow, which is warmth in the middle here, because most roses do have at least a tinge of yellow in it at some point. So I'm just adding a bit of yellow, and I'm going to take my brush then and dab off a little bit of water. And then just touch the edges and allow that yellow to spread out just a little bit. Now, just for some warmth to the back, I might put just a little bit of yellow to the back, because logically what I've got is I got my sun coming down this way, and usually where you have sun you have a little bit of a yellow cast to it because of the rays of the sun. That's something to think about anyhow. Okay, now that we've done that, we'll come back in and get a little bit of water, clean our brush off. Now I want to start deciding which parts of the petals are in the cracks or down deeper, and which parts are in the sunlight. So this is the time that you start deciding where the petals are and where the light's hitting. I know it sounds like a lot, so it's just something you have to play with, but that's the idea. So I'm going to take some of my Opera Rose, and I'm going to add a little bit of my Rose Madder into it because I want it to be darker. And I'm going to start deciding where I want to put some darker areas. Now, most roses in the middle are more, the leaves are more compact, so in the very middle, it's going to have your darkest dark. So I like to maybe make a little bit of like so, where the leaves are just starting to, or the petals are just starting to unravel. And you don't need to get too tight with it. And then after that, you just start thinking about, okay, here looks like a little lighter spot, so that looks like a good opportunity to have darker underneath here. And when you put the dark there, like so, then that makes that petal roll out and show that it's part of, it's rolling out. In other words, it's hitting the sunlight. Okay, now there's another opportunity right there for a light area. So I'm not going to paint all of that in dark. I'm going to just hit it with some color here and there. The idea on this is not to, not just to like paint it on. You just got to touch your brush here and there. Now you see where this dark line is here? We want to take our brush that's doesn't have any paint on it to speak of, dab it off a bit with just the brush being damp, and touch that area there and blend out from the dark area, leaving the very edge. You can pat it or you can do whatever makes you comfortable. You see how that sort of blends that out? Now as this begins to dry here, there's too much of a solid space there. So what I can do is I can come back in, but I have to wait until it sort of dries a bit. It's not quite dry enough. And I can remove some of that really dark area and give it a little bit more dimension. Okay, so now that we've decided that, let's move on. And like right here is a good area to put in some of that dark rose madder. And I like to make little cutouts where, you know, like the rose is frilly, where the edge of the rose is kind of frilly looking. All right, now we're doing the same thing. We cleaned our brush off. Now we're going to come in and we're going to ease out the edge just by tapping it and trying to stay away from, see, I got a little bit close there to the original line I put in, and it spread the paint out. So that's something you just have to play with it. I mean, you know, this is something you don't learn overnight. I'm far from being a master watercolorist, that's for sure. But this is how I have figured out that works for me. Now, as you're seeing, see how the roses, the petals of the roses are starting to take shape? So we're going to go back in. I'm going to get just a little bit of water on my brush. I don't want a lot. And I'm going to get some more of that rose madder, which is our dark color, which we're going to call our shadow color. Now I have to decide, where does this petal, what happens to this petal? It's just now hanging out in limbo. And what happens to this petal? So in order to determine that, you've got to decide, does this petal run over here? Does this one come over here? So it looks like there's a little lighter area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distinguish, whoops, too much water. I'm going to distinguish where that other petal is by, again, putting a little bit of color in there. Wash my brush and spread it out just a little bit. There you go. Now I'm going to quit working on that area because it's getting too wet. You got to move around in a watercolor painting. You can't just work from one spot to the other, which I sometimes forget about. Okay, here's another really pretty light area. Now I want more of my distinction to go down here on this bottom side, and the sun's coming this way, so it's going to be less distinct on the upper side. And so, let's see, I've got a little bit of paint on my brush. I'm going to make this right here into another petal. And I'm going to have this petal come this way. And like so. I'm going to wash out my brush, and I'm going to ease out the edge. I need a little bit more water on there, it's not making it move. Ease out the edge a bit. I see how that is kind of, and I'm trying not to do everything the same color. There you go. Okay, now as we're moving on, just turn it around so you don't get all hung up with front and back and all that mess. So I'm bringing that out a little bit like I did before. And I'm going to turn it on around. And here it looks like I'm seeing something that looks like a rose petal right there. This is actually really a lot of fun once you start seeing. It's a matter of seeing which the different colors, the lights and the darks, and then seeing a shape there, and that shape then becomes your pattern. That's why I don't draw roses. Makes them too restricted. Okay, and then we're kind of getting most of what I would consider not too much more definition here. I'm going to fade that off there and blend it out here. Sometimes I just bring my brush and roll it out. And okay, I'm seeing that this area right here needs to be a bit darker. It's too much the same color. So everything, in order to give it shape, has to be light, medium, and dark at the least. Otherwise you get a flat surface. So if you just kind of think like that, I'm going to pull that over there like so to make the petal roll in. Now that already looks better. And I just use my brush and kind of use my brush to make different designs. All right. I think I'll blend a little bit of that up there on that really white petal, just because it needs a little bit more graduation. There. Okay, this up here is getting dry enough. I think I can come back in now, some of that darker color, and try to make a bit of definition. So what you're thinking of is how the bud folds in up on itself. And again, you don't make just one shape. You have to think about what the rose does, how it unfolds, and how it all works together with the other petals. Like so. Now I'm going to give that just a little bit of a blend right here. But basically, I don't want to blend that too much. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that for right now. Now, we can make this as detailed or as not. I mean, you know, we could work on this for days. Just depending on, you know, what you're trying to accomplish here. Okay, right here, there's a really pretty petal there. This petal right here needs a little bit more definition. Let me think for a minute. Right there we need a little bit more. And this petal right here is rolling in. And I think you can see that if you look. This petal right here is rolling in, right here on this corner. Okay, and then this needs a little bit of pulling a little bit of paint out. So you see how that petal right there just rolled into that crack? That's basically all we need to do to that. Now I may come back when it gets a little bit drier and remove a little bit of that color. But for right now, it's looking all right. I think it'll look fine. Okay, now we're going to move out just a little bit more, and we're going to make, I'm going to turn this over here and decide on this side how much color we want. And I don't think I'm going to use this color on that side, so we'll wait, because I think it's a little dark for that side. Now this petal right here, I see it coming in this way, and then it rolls in that way. So I'm going to add a little bit more color right here and a little bit more color right here. and then I'm going to use this brush and touch it and wipe it back, and then I'm just going to touch it there and touch it there, and then I'm going to blend it out. All right. Yep. Let me see. All right, from here, I don't know how long we've been going, but you know, it's up to you how long you want to watch it. All right, here at the edge, I need to figure out these last petals here, and it appears to me that this is hitting the sunlight here. But this area over here, instead of making it into a rose petal, this is going to be some background area. That's when I'm going to switch over to the blue and the yellow to make it look like somewhat greenery back there. Excuse me. I'm going to drink something here. Okay, so the one thing I need to do right here, you can see how the shadow goes all the way around that bottom there. It kind of just leaves this leaf out here hanging in limbo, or this petals, what I'm trying to say. So I need to put a little bit more here, and that I can come in with the outside, and then this right here is a bit of a, okay, so I need a little bit more definition here and across here. Sometimes I like to just do it like this. It makes almost like the striations. You know what I mean? A rose petal. Okay, I think we're to the point now. I'll finish up the outside with the background and smooth that out there a little bit more. And then here on this back side, I'm going to take some of the opera rose. I don't want the real dark, and I just need to distinguish a bit where there might be a petal. So I'm just going to make kind of some angular suggestions, is what I would call it. Yeah, angular suggestions of rose petals. And then I'm going to smooth them out. All right, that's good. And then I'm going to just take my brush and try to get rid of a lot of that distinctive line, softening it out like so. Now let's look at that. A bit of one back there, I see. Now, this is all about light, and it's all about juxtaposition. Is what we used to call it. Colors and how it appears to make shapes, because you put one color, a light color, next to a dark color. You see what I mean? Or different shades, different colors. Alright, I'm going to just suggest that there, and I'm going to suggest that there, and let it just fade away. And then touch it with the brush. Now I see this petal here like going like so. So it's like turned up from the bottom. There you go. And this petal right here, I can see that it's turned up from the bottom. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color there to show that this area right here, get all the paint off of here, this area right here is like bulbing out or bowling out, you see what I mean? And this area right here is doing the same thing. We're down at the bottom here, it's going to have a little bit of the darker color, because that's the bottom of the petal. There you go. Now over here, you just fan that, get rid of that line. Okay, I think that is good as far as demos go. Let me get a little bit more right here. Get a little bit of a separation right there. And okay. I don't think I have my little scrubby brush here. I haven't painted in so long. Let's try it and see. Or maybe I can do it with this brush. What I like to do is get a bit of a small, stiffer brush, and this one right here is a Skoda Kolinsky, which is number 2, which is not really for this purpose, but maybe it'll work. And some of these little, there's a light and a dark. There's no highlight, and it's making it look kind of flat. So I was wondering if maybe I could take a little bit of water on my brush, because this is beginning to dry, and just bring out a few little white lighter areas, let's put it that way. A few little lighter areas. So you put a little bit of water down, you don't scrub it, and you just touch it, which releases some of the pigment and gives it a little bit of a darker color, lighter color. My brain's not engaging with my mouth. All right, a bit more here. And a little bit here. Like I said, you know, you can come back in and add your, make more definition. There's all kinds of things you can do. But for demonstrations where you understand the idea of what we're trying to accomplish, I think this is good. So I need to move on. Okay, the other thing I might do is to give some definition to the outer edges here. So if I take my paints and I put some yellow down and some cobalt blue, it makes a green. And the more yellow you put, the lighter the green, and the more blue you put, the darker the green. So to begin with, I would use which brush would I use? Never been real comfortable with using a square brush, but just for grins, let's try it. I mean, what does it hurt, right? This is just try for here. Okay, so I want to cut into this flower right here. We're going to need to get a little bit more thicker paint, a little bit more pigment. Let's put it that way. No, I don't like that square brush. I mean, I know people who use it. I'm going to dry this real quick because I can see it's trying to bleed. So hold your ears. Okay, it doesn't have to be super dry, just dry enough that it doesn't bleed. Okay, where's my other brush? I think I'm going to go back with my trusty old brush. Whoops. Where's it at? I don't know how I can lose brushes. But I do. Let's try this one. Yeah, this will work. Okay, a little blue, a little yellow. And what you're going to do now is by touching the petal of the rose, you're going to make little swirly marks where like insects or the edge of the rose. And then when you get that, you come back and you bring that out. Now, I'm just going to put something that looks like greenery around the edges. I think I need a little bit more. And always come back and make it darker. I'll make my brush come to a point. And I don't necessarily want to get all the same color. So while that's still wet, I will come back in with some different colors. And I may even put some red in it. So it's just a matter of learning your colors and playing around with your colors and seeing what happens. You know, don't think on it too hard. If you don't like what you did the first time, you can always have a second go around. And so that's the idea. Now as you move towards the back, then you get lighter and lighter. And I like to just put some paint down and then just start scrubbing it away. Don't let there be any hard lines. You know, you don't want a bunch of hard lines. And then as you move to the back, you get less and less of the green color. Like so. Bring that in a little closer. And as this begins to dry, I might go ahead and add a little bit of yellow back there. Okay, I can see how once this gets really good and dry, how I could come in and do some more definition on the leaves, on the petals, but for right now, we're just going to leave it as is. This is the point where you can mess it up real quick. But I feel like there needs to be some more darkness at the bottom here. So I'm just going to put a little bit more of the blue down here. And leave it be. And I you know how rose petals have red leaves sometime? I always like to put a little bit of red leaf on there. You mash down into the paint, now it's going to start blending with the the undercolors, and when it dries you will get all kinds of really pretty colors. So the main thing is you don't want to have a green line here and a red line down here, you know what I mean? So you just got to watch that, and leave it be. Let me get a little bit of that green line out going away because it's really bugging me. Like so. Okay, I think I would leave that for right now, and that would be pretty much it. Now I'm going to go ahead and dry it one more time. That'll give you a little bit better idea of what it looks like when it's dry. Okay. Now you're beginning to see, at this point, you start to see shadows and shapes and places where if you want to continue, you can go in and do dry brush techniques on it. I mean, you know, you can put a little bit of a shape of a leaf over here in the distance. It's just a matter of playing with it. But there's one thing, you know, you have to think about when you're doing watercolors. Once you put it down, it's not like a journal journal page. You mess it up, can't really fix it usually. I'm not saying you can't fix it, but it's not as easy to fix. So probably see like this right here where there appears to be a really hard line. At this point I'd come in and I'd just take a brush with a little water on it and just soften that line just a little bit, at least here and there. And all you got to do is kind of touch a damp brush to the edge and it kind of blends it all out. Like so. Okie dokie. Oh, I don't know, let me see what time it is. I need to decide if I can, that's 43 minutes. I'll do a real quick, since I got my paints out here, I'll do a real quick watercolor background. Here's a rose. I was going to go ahead and start it, and then just it'd be dried to that point, and I decided not to. So we'll just use this one right here and see what we come up with. Okay, the first thing we need to do is wet our background like we did before. Just go right over the top of that watercolor rose. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. You're just trying to get paint on the piece of paper because you just want some pretty colors that when you use it for a background, for a tag or a journaling card or whatever you're going to use it for, die cuts, whatever you're going to use it for, you just need to get it to the point where you can use it. It'll have different colors on it. Okay, Let's see, I need quite a lot of water. Now I'm going to do something a little different this time. I think I'm going to just lay this paint on like so. I don't like that. I'm going to use a big brush like I did before. It seemed to work better. And like I said before, all you want to do is lightly touch the paper. You don't want to scrub it. You just want to lightly touch it. Alright. Next color we're going to try is some of that yellow. And I don't want it too dark. I just want enough there that I can get some variation in color. And I'm going to bring a little bit up into that blue. Probably get a little green out of it. There you go. Hope I'm not out of frame. Okay, now the next color we're going to put in, let's use some of this rose madder. Just have fun. Main thing is let the water that's on the piece of paper, let it kind of decide what what it wants to do. There you go. I'm going to pull a little bit of that up in there to get some color variation, and then I'm going to take a little bit of that blue and I'm going to touch this here. There you go. Now, and with this, you can do just about anything you want to, just play. I don't know, I'm not doing anything in particular, I'm just playing. I'm just moving paint around, that's all I'm doing. And that's all there is to it. You don't have to have any preconceived notion. And after you do that, you may look at that and say, oh, looky there, I made trees, and I didn't even know it. And that's how easy it is. Now there on the bottom, dry this off. On the bottom, I might want to take my brush and touch it into some of that opera rose, and then just do some little droppies. I don't like that because it's not dark enough. So I switch over to the rose madder. So just let your brush dance around and do its thing. There you go. Now, I'm going to just soften the edge a little bit so it just doesn't, float in the air. Maybe I bring that down a little bit. Okay. Now, I would call that done. Now, just to go ahead and finish it off, I'm going to dry it because it does change once you dry it. It changes the color. You can fast forward past this if you don't want to hear this noise. I don't blame you one bit. Okay, that's not super dry, but it's dry enough for you to see what it's going to look like. So now, if you can imagine putting some of your die-cut flowers on there, how pretty that's going to be as it moves from one color to the other. So you're getting different colors on your stems, different colors on your leaves. So you might want to, turn it around that way and do some, turn it around that way and do a different one. It's very versatile, and it really gives your die cuts and your background some really really interesting technique and color. Okay, I hope everybody enjoyed that, and you learned a little bit of something that will give you the knowledge that maybe you can go out and do the same thing and just have fun with color. If you got a little child's box of watercolors, just go for it. Have fun. That's what life's about. Having fun. We don't expect anything that's going to be a Monet, as I said before. It's just going to be playing and having fun. So until next time, this is Barbie saying bye 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 bye. We'll see you the next time. I'll be coming back. I'm planning on doing probably a one of the challenges that Rachel at her 100-day project challenge, I believe that's what it's called. I think today was do a page in all beiges. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I've got an idea of what I want to do, so probably that'll be my next video. If you're interested, come back and check with me. But until next time, this is Barbie saying bye bye. Have a blessed day.